with Representative Jerry Nadler, a longtime advocate of his district, his constituency, but of our entire city as it pertains to the issues of 9/11. Nydia Velasquez, who has parts of Manhattan. I should say Jerry has parts of Manhattan and Brooklyn. Nydia has parts of Manhattan, Queens, and Brooklyn. And Adriano Espaillat from Washington Heights, but also parts of Manhattan and the Bronx. We're so very, very pleased to have them all here today. I also want to thank, we have some friends who've joined us. Frente Unido de Immigrantes Ecuadorianos, Antonio Arrizaga, who's the president of that organization, as well as Frente Hispano Local 79, Edwin Mendoza, who's here as well. So thank you, who's the president. We are joined by Kelly Becker Smith from the Emerald Isle Immigration Center. We are also joined this morning, and they'll be hearing from later on, Camille Mackler, the Director of Legal Initiatives, New York Immigration Coalition, and Natalia Aristizabal, right? Tough name. Lead organizer of Make the Road. We know her as Natalia. So we've also been joined this morning by another gentleman who'll be speaking after me, and that is Alex Sanchez, the president of United We Stand, who has done such outstanding work as it pertains to the individuals who suffered as a result of the attack of 9/11, but in particular the work that he's done on behalf of Carlos Cardona, the 9/11 worker who's here with us today, along with his daughter Giselle Cardona as well, who's with us. So thank you both for joining us this morning. I'm so pleased, as I said, to be here with my colleagues, many of whom have worked on this issue for almost 16 years now, and certainly by the president, Mr. Cardona. Some of you may have read about Mr. Cardona's case, Carlos's case, in the New York Daily News. I want to thank the New York Daily News for having brought this issue to my attention, to all of our attention, and it was a story that needed to be told, and one that I think struck the hearts of I know all New Yorkers, but I hope all Americans as well. After decades of living peacefully here in the U.S. and following every instruction from immigration officials, Mr. Cardona was detained and targeted for deportation. This was despite having a wife and a daughter, who's present with us today, who are both U.S. citizens. Despite working hard to provide for his family, and despite having answered our nation's call on September 11th, one of the darkest days in our nation's history, many of us spoke out on how unjust the treatment of Mr. Cardona was. And we cheered when ICE released him back to his family. But he is not free from the threat of deportation yet. And quite frankly, he is not alone in this threat. Potentially hundreds of people, just like Carlos, showed up to work on September 11th and September 12th and the months thereafter. They went to work at a long, hazardous, and sad job of cleaning up the destruction of the terrorist attack of that day. There is no doubt in my mind that what they did was beyond patriotic, it was heroic in their service. They served our country when we needed a hand, and now we're only showing them, unfortunately, the back of ours. Instead of gratitude, they're being shown the door. That's not what I believe in. That's not what we as Americans believe in. It's not representative of our values. So I'm proposing a measure, and joined by my colleagues in that proposal, to give these workers not just the peace of mind for themselves and for their families, which they deserve, many of whom are American citizens, but to give them a show of respect, a show of gratitude. We will give them green cards so that they can live and work permanently here in the United States, the place that they consider home, so that a knock at the door at night can't tear them apart from their families, so that workers like Carlos aren't at the whim of an administration that has gone after immigrants at every turn. That's what is really so shameful, that this is par for the course for the Trump administration. Every day there are more and more reports of priests and parents and restaurant owners and refugees being rounded up for deportation. Even if they have only a minor criminal offense or no criminal offense at all. And the immigration agencies have made very clear These aren't one-off incidents. This is part of their plan to go after hard-working immigrants, their families, and the places that they call home. Places like New York City, places like Jackson Heights and Corona. Places that have been a welcoming place for immigrants for generations. Because we have seen just how these immigrants have contributed to our communities, to our city, and to our country, like they did after 9/11, and like they do every day since then. So let me be clear. We are putting forward this measure, this bill, to help this specific population, but we are not stopping here. I think I speak for all my colleagues when I say that we won't rest until we have real immigration reform that brings people out of the shadows and lets them contribute to their communities, to our city, and to our great nation, that honors our country and our nation's heritage as a nation built by immigrants, and that honors the men and women like Carlos Cardona, the men and women who are heroes, not just to the immigrant community, but to all of us here in America and our great city, who went above and beyond the call of duty to help put the city back together after 9/11. With that, I would ask Mr. Cardona to say a few words.
In English,
En español.
Sure.
Both.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank God for making this possible. To Mr. Governor Cuomo and Mr. Congress Jose Crowley and the whole staff for making this possible. I want to thank you guys, the media, for taking the time and being here. And I want to thank you also my colleagues, my friends that work with me, and I live in Restoration. And I feel very lucky to be here today, sharing this time with you. I feel very proud to be part of this great nation, and this opportunity that I'm being given it to be here reuniting with my family. And this is, I hope, this moment, this glorious moment that we're going through, I hope helps a lot of, helps not only my mother. I'm not really concerned about my mother. I just consider about other of my colleagues, which is they were the real heroes that were there at the right moment at the right time to help this great nation. To me, something like that will happen in the future, which I wish not to happen again in this great nation or ever whatsoever in this world. If I have to be there for the second time, of course I will be there to help, to be there and back up the city once again. And all I say is I feel very proud of the government, Mr. Crowley, the government, and congressmen, and all the parties that all this making this possible. I feel very proud. And thank you once again to all of you. Thank you, and I hope we continue fighting. We continue fighting until we're having a good end of this. Gracias. Les agradezco mucho a Dios primero que todo. Le agradezco al gobernador Andrew Cuomo, y al congresista Jose Crowley, y a toda su oficina y a todos los medios. Les agradezco por hacer este momento posible, un momento que es histórico, y pues esperemos que a través de los medios puedan llegar este mensaje a los políticos y que nos puedan ayudar a todos mis compañeros que trabajamos, que nos encontramos aquí todos y muchos que no están aquí, por supuesto, presentes, y que a través de este momento pues puedan ayudar a tanta gente necesitada, especialmente a los trabajadores de 911, ya que estuvimos ahí expuestos, ayudando en un momento tan dramático como el fue el 911. Esperamos que por favor tengan conciencia hacia nosotros y nos puedan dar un chance de poder estar en esta gran nación, ya que servimos esta gran nación, no esperando ser afectados por estos tóxicos que estuvimos expuestos en la zona cero. No lo pensamos de esa manera. Lo que pensamos fue simplemente restablecer la zona cero y colaborarle a esta gran nación que ha sido muy buena con nosotros. Pues una vez más les agradezco a todos por estar aquí. Gracias a todos los medios comunicativos y por favor espero que esta reunión que estamos hoy en día sirva para apoyar a muchos de mis compañeros, de los que estamos aquí, repito, de los que no están aquí, y que podamos resolver nuestro problema migratorio, que por favor, la verdad que lo necesitamos. Muchas gracias y Dios los bendiga a todos.
Thank you, Carlos. And now, Mr. Sanchez. Alex. United we stand.
Good morning. My name is Alex Sanchez. I am a 9/11 responder. First and foremost, I would like to thank the Cardona family and Carlos. For the past 11 years, I've been representing the Latino community. I've been their face and their voice. Alongside Congressman Nala, Maloney, our Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and our Junior Senator Gillibrand, we have defied all odds and we have obtained free medical treatment for a lifetime and $7.2 billion for compensation. I promised each person back behind me that I was going to push for the legalization of the undocumented. We were all wearing yellow today because it's the color of hope. And we need to understand that we need to provide for those who provided for our nation in its darkest moment. I am very proud today and very thankful to Congressman Crowley for his steadfast leadership. I also would like to thank our governor and my political mom, Carolyn B. Maloney, who couldn't make it today. But I also want to thank the media, because a nation is worth the value of its free press. Now I'm going to give my testimony in Spanish. Mi nombre es Alex Sánchez. Soy respondiente de los ataques del 11 de septiembre. Nací y vivo en la ciudad de Nueva York. Por los últimos 11 años he trabajado sin cesar para tratamiento médico gratuito y compensación para todos. Le doy muchas gracias a la familia Cardona, Giselle Cardona, que cuando me llamó me dijo que su padre estaba detenido. Pude entender que teníamos que trabajar diligentemente para la liberación de Carlos, pero también hacer historia. Hay 2.000 indocumentados, héroes del 11 de septiembre, que merecen el respeto por su trabajo digno en el momento más oscuro de nuestra nación. Quiero darle las gracias a mi mentora y jefa Hillary Clinton, que abrió las puertas del programa para el tratamiento médico. El congresista Jerry Nadler, que ha estado desde el principio cuando esta legislación fue aplicada en el Congreso. Yo estaba a su lado. Y la congresista Maloney. May God bless the United States of America. And may God bless the freedom of the press. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. As Alex mentioned, Jerry Nadler is no stranger when it comes to the issue of 9/11 and fighting on behalf of all people, regardless of race, ethnicity, color, gender. Jerry's been steadfast in that support, and we as a city are appreciative of all of his efforts. By the way, of all the congressional members and the efforts that they put forth, and I'll speak about Nidia Velasquez in just a moment, but Jerry Nadler.
Thank you very much. In the immediate aftermath of the terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001, men and women from all around the country came to Ground Zero here in my district to assist in the rescue and recovery efforts at the World Trade Center. In the days and weeks that followed, thousands came to remove debris, to clean up Lower Manhattan, and to help us get our city back on its feet. These men and women acted selflessly and bravely, often risking their lives and their health, handling hazardous debris and working in an environment we knew to be toxic. At the time, we thanked each and every person who came here to help our city and our country in its moment of need. We cheered their work and we cheered their bravery. We called them what they were, heroes. But I can tell you one thing we never did when they came to work on the pile. We never asked their immigration status. We were just grateful for their presence and for their help. The current administration refuses to recognize the heroism of Mr. Cardona and the men and women who worked beside him. They want to call him a criminal and deport him. We must never allow that to happen. This bill, which I am proud to introduce with Mr. Crowley, will ensure that those heroes are never treated the way Mr. Cardona was, regardless of who may live in the White House at any given time. I've worked for the last 16 years to recognize the sacrifices of the men and women who worked on the pile and to ensure that they and their families are cared for. This bill is now central to that goal. It will finally recognize that the men and women who came to Ground Zero on 9/11 and in the aftermath represent the very best of this country, regardless of their immigration status. We should be embracing these heroes who served us, not deporting them. Mr. Cardona and all the other 9/11 workers today, you are heroes. I am proud to stand with you today and always, and we will pass this bill and get this worry off your shoulders. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. As I mentioned, there were many people who worked both in front of the scene and behind the scene in terms of ensuring that the Zadroga Act and other acts that followed after 9/11 happened. And Nidia Velasquez takes second place to no one. In fact, she and Joe Serrano insisted that there be no discrimination against any worker at the 9/11 site in terms of health benefits. So I want to thank her for all of her hard work and our steadfast work for all these past 20 years in the House of Representatives on behalf of her constituents. Nidia Velasquez.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe, for bringing us together and for putting forward a well thought out, morally bill. I am grateful to you. This is what we need to do as a nation. It goes to the heart of who we are, and that is that we take care of our neighbors. But most importantly, when our nation is under attack, these workers show up. They didn't run away. They went into the site of 9/11. No one asked them for any papers. They just said, we are here to assist our great city. They were not asked questions, and they didn't ask questions. Will this cause any health problems? And this is why, when we were negotiating the 9/11 Zadroga bill, and people wanted, rightfully so, to have a bill that will honor our commitment to assist those who went into 9/11 and our first responders. The issue was whether or not those undocumented will be covered. Serrano and I insisted, and we said we will not support any bill if undocumented workers were not covered. So I am proud of the work that the entire delegation did to provide the assistance that it was needed. In good times and bad, immigrants make countless contributions to our culture, our economy, and our way of life. 9/11 was no different. During the darkness of that day, we saw New Yorkers rally together to care for one another and respond to the attacks. Immigrants, documented and undocumented, were among those who worked on the pile, searching for survivors and helping our city recover. They drove trucks helping remove debris from the site. Now, many of them, like 9/11 workers and first responders, suffer from illnesses. And yet these heroes are exactly the kind of people the Trump administration could deport. So, Mr. Trump, do what is morally right. You said you're going to deport bad hombres. Well, this gentleman here is an honorable hero, and we must honor that commitment that we made to our heroes. When these men and women went to the World Trade Center, no one asked them for documentation, as I said. Yet Mr. Cardona has worked for 4 days in the recovery assistance process of 9/11. Now, thankfully, Governor Cuomo has pardoned Mr. Cardona, but we cannot allow incidents like this to happen again. Those who risked their health responding to the attacks of 9/11 are not criminals. They are our heroes. So I want to thank Joe and every one of the organizations, every advocate who is here, the entire delegation. We're going to fight for fairness because this is what it's about. It's about what is right for our nation. Imagine the possibilities of another attack. Do you think that everyone is going to show up? You know what? I will not doubt it. So, Mr. President, do what is right. Thank you.
Thank you, Nidia. Thank you, Nidia. Thank you, Nidia. It's now my honor to introduce to you a man who I've known for over 25 years now in his membership of the New York State Assembly as a New York State Senator, and now as the newest member of the delegation from the city of New York. Himself was an undocumented alien initially, and now is a member of the House of Representatives. Congressman Adriano Espaillat.
Thank you, Congressman Crowley, for your leadership on this issue. Congressman Crowley represents perhaps one of the most diverse districts in the country. In fact, in Queens and in the Bronx, in the neighborhoods that he represents, it's a small version of the United Nations. People from all over the world live there, and they are feeling the burden and the harshness of the Trump administration heavy-handed approach towards immigration. And so we are here today to say that an honorable man, as Congresswoman Velasquez stated, should be treated in a just fashion, should be treated in an American way because of his dedicated service to this nation. I represent the district, Washington Heights, where we saw Sergeant Ryan Tejada, a former Marine, become one of the first casualties of the war in Afghanistan. Now, he was a green card holder, and after his death in combat, he was given citizenship posthumously. It shouldn't take the death of anybody for that person, that hero, to be treated fairly. And so these folks that worked cleaning up the site where 9/11 happened, sacred ground. We stand in the shadows right now of where the towers were. Those folks that came here to clean up that site with toxic fumes, many of whom have contracted respiratory illnesses, some of which may die themselves because of this, should be given the opportunity to have a green card. We also see how veterans, listen to this, veterans, people that have fought in our wars, that are green card holders, are being deported by this administration. That is shameful for veterans and for folks that cleaned up 9/11, that put their life on the lines, to be treated in this harsh way, in this un-American way. And so I commend Congressman Crowley. I'm happy to be associated with this bill that will give these men and women like Cardona and others the ability to stay here without no worries that they will be stopped one day on their way to pick up their kid at school. Or maybe one day they get sick and they have to go to the emergency room. They don't have to fear that they will be turned in at the emergency room or at a police precinct when they have to report a crime. They should be given that green card. With a path to citizenship. With a path to citizenship. Because they also helped our nation. Quiero felicitar al congresista Crowley, al congresista Nadler, Velázquez y Cardona, Sánchez, todos los que han abogado por este momento. Un momento que le propone darle su tarjeta de migración de su residencia a Cardona, a otros que han luchado, que limpiaron el 9/11, donde habían elementos tóxicos que han contribuido a condiciones y enfermedades respiratorias. Y ellos, como cualquier otro soldado también que peleó en la guerra con su residencia, algunos de los cuales se enfrentan deportaciones, merecen un trato justo, equilibrado, honesto de esta nación. Por eso estamos aquí apoyándolo a ellos. Yo vine aquí sin residencia. I came to this nation and I overstayed my visa. And now I'm a member of Congress. Y ahora soy un miembro del Congreso. I don't see why people like Cardona should not be given their green card. I don't see why soldiers that fought for our nation should face deportation. Thank you, Congressman Crowley.
Thank you.
Thanks, SP. We now have Camille Mackler, the Director of Legal Initiatives of the New York Immigration Coalition. Many of us last saw her, although I've seen her in between, at the JFK terminal, which she was fighting back in January on behalf of so many immigrants who are under threat. Camille.
Thank you, Congressman. Thank you all. September 11th, 2001 was a dark day for this city and for this country. And like anyone who lived through it, I remember all too well the deep blue sky, the crisp fall air, the cries in the streets, the fireballs in our skyline where the World Trade Center once rose. I will never forget strangers hugging strangers as we watched the World Trade Center fall. In the days and weeks that followed, we mourned death, and whenever we could, we celebrated life. But most importantly, we did it together. Because no matter where we started from, no matter how long the path that brought us here took, we were all New Yorkers on that day. During that time, and with the eyes of the world on us, we showed that New Yorkers are strong and resilient and undaunted. The fabric of the city has never been stronger. It has never lifted us higher than it was on that day, during that fall. And immigrants are an integral part of that weave. In New York, we are so lucky to have leaders who show up when it matters. And I know from personal experience that they show up before anyone else to help us fight back. And they are all standing with me here today. And on behalf of the New York Immigration Coalition and all of the immigrant communities that we represent, we commend and thank Congressman Joe Crowley and all of our elected officials here for introducing the 9/11 Immigrant Worker Freedom Act to recognize those who ran towards the flames on that terrible day. This city was built by immigrants. And when we were brought to our knees, they rolled their sleeves up and they helped us rebuild it. Because that is the New York way. Every day, New Yorkers go above and beyond for everyone, for someone. Every day, a New Yorker plays hero to somebody else. And immigrants are no exception to this New York way of life. Those of us who daily witness these acts of selflessness and courage know that our New York is stronger for the immigrant heroes who are a part of us. From the
Hold on a second. Let's just wait till they. Out of respect for you.
That's okay. From the 9/11 first responders to the construction workers who rebuilt us after Hurricane Sandy. From the healthcare workers, home health aid workers who take care of our elderly and sick every day. To the future leaders who walk down the hallways of our academic institutions. To the millions in between, we are stronger, safer, and richer for the immigrants who are a part of us. On 9/11, immigrants stood shoulder to shoulder with all New Yorkers and reminded us that we would come out of this together and more united. Today, I am proud to see that New Yorkers stand shoulder to shoulder with our immigrant communities and will continue to defend them no matter who tries to threaten them or harm us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Camille. And now Natalia Aristizabal will speak from lead organizer for Make the Road. Got it the second time.
Yes, you did. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having this. Thank you so much, Congressman Joe Crowley, for gathering us here today to talk about this very important issue. As Camille said, 9/11 was very important for all New Yorkers, and I think for everyone in the U.S. Who suddenly saw our everyday life and society crumble apart as the buildings were falling down. And 9/11 workers are a perfect testimony of the strength and the labor that immigrants have put into this country and will continue to put forward. 9/11 workers need and deserve security to be here with their families and not be afraid that they're going to be torn apart at night or in the morning or when they go to work or when they're coming back. But they're also an example of the broader immigrant community. And the broader immigrant community needs also relief and needs to be respected. And I am super thankful to all the 9/11 workers that are here and to all of the folks, El Frente Unido, El Frente Hispano, who are here supporting the workers every day and are here continuing to fight for their health and for their papers and uplifting, again, the contributions that immigrant New Yorkers have put forward for this city and for this country. I'm going to say this briefly in Spanish. Gracias a todos por estar acá y gracias al congresista Joe Crowley por poner esta propuesta a nivel nacional para los trabajadores del 911. Los trabajadores del 911 son súper valientes y son una muestra de la comunidad inmigrante en general que necesita una reforma migratoria. Ellos definitivamente deben de poder salir de sus casas sabiendo que van a volver a llegar y que no van a ser divididos o separados en cualquier momento por un sistema migratorio que no ve la justicia y la dignidad de nosotros, y ellos deberían siempre estar tranquilos, pero también la comunidad inmigrante más amplia en general debe tener la seguridad de que ellos van a poder estar siempre con sus familias, de que no van a estar separados y de que su contribución va a siempre ser respetada. Ellos dan un ejemplo de toda la comunidad latina, la comunidad inmigrante, la comunidad que ha trabajado aquí por mucho tiempo y de lo que somos capaces de hacer cuando se nos da la oportunidad. Entonces, agradecemos que está esta propuesta, esperamos que esta propuesta siga adelante y también de que se den cuenta toda la administración de la contribución que hace la comunidad inmigrante. Gracias.
Thank you. Thank you, Natalia. I was under the impression she did not want to say a few words, but I have a very special guest who would like to say a few words, and that is the daughter of Carlos Cardona, Giselle. She'd like to say a few words on behalf of her father. By the way, she's an American citizen.
First off, I want to ask Donald Trump personally, on the day of the attack, I want to ask you, as a fellow New Yorker, as a fellow citizen of this country, as President of the United States, how did you feel that day? Did you help? Did you volunteer? Were your children in lockdown in their schools? Did you lose somebody that was close to you? And I asked this question to President Trump because I know that he will see this, because it's all over his Twitter feed when he's on it early in the morning, late at night. I follow him on Twitter. On the day of the attack, we lost so many great people. Even if we did not know those people personally, we still lost a great piece of our nation. It not only affected this city, this state, or this country, it also affected the whole world. Tourists came, our family members, workers who were there, our first responders who were there have also passed. It's not just us who got affected as New Yorkers. It's the whole world who got affected. And our immigrants, our undocumented immigrants, are not given that privilege to stay here, but yet they sacrificed their life and their health because they love this country. While many of us stayed in our homes or we fled from New York because we were so scared about what could happen next, they stepped up to the plate and they said, I'm here to help because I'm an American. And although I do not have my papers, I'm an American. So shouldn't we give them the right to be honored with their citizenship? We should. So President Trump, I ask, in your administration, that you take into consideration that many undocumented workers stepped up to the plate and helped this city, this nation that you are now running. They helped us. And they had that faith that we were going to find our loved ones. They had the faith that we can clean up Manhattan one more time and make it beautiful again. This city, the streets that we walk are streets that many of our undocumented workers, many of our citizens, many of our people who walked these streets once before, unfortunately are not walking them anymore, but they will always be remembered here. And I want to thank Governor Cuomo for granting clemency and a pardon to my father. It has meant so much to me that our politicians are actually looking at us. Our politicians are giving us what we need. We are fighting for unity. And I want to thank Congressman Crowley. I want to thank our attorney, the one who is representing my father, Rajesh Barwa. I want to thank all of you who came out here tonight or today. I really want to thank you all of the supporters who are also watching and listening. Thank you. Because if it wasn't for you, if it wasn't for the media, my father's story would not have gone out. I have tried. Since the moment he got locked up, since the moment they detained him, I've tried. And it didn't work until 4 months later when the Daily News came out with my father's story. And from then on, it has developed into something so big. And I'm so honored to know that not only are we fighting for my father's freedom, but the many undocumented workers who helped with 9/11, that we are also fighting for them. And I just want to tell you all that we have the faith. We are not just here standing just to stand here because many of us are politicians and we want a good rep. It's not about that. It's about the people. And all this time I thought that politicians were just about themselves until I met these great people who have helped us, and until I realized that many of our politicians are fighting for each of us and so that we can all have freedom and equality. Thank you.
Thank you, Giselle, for your poignant words. Let me also thank Governor Cuomo, who's not with us today, for the pardon for Mr. Cardona. That helps clear the way for future engagement with ICE. I also would just like to thank all my colleagues again for being here today, for supporting this legislation, but also let you know that this is not unique in our American history. After World War I in 1918, the Congress passed an act, a law that gave a green card status to the men and women who joined our military to fight the First World War. So we have precedent here in terms of letting this happen. In fact, the folklore of our family is that's how my grandfather became an American citizen, coming here in 1912 at 14, having served during World War I, became a citizen thereafter. So we have precedent for this happening in the past. What we're suggesting is, once again, it's time for that to be used here in this case. And with that, we'll be happy to open up for questions.
Mr. Cardona, can you step up to the microphone, please? As someone, how did you feel? You went into this area, you were risking illness, you were trying to help, and then you're suddenly picked up. Did it feel unfair? How did it feel?
No, first of all, I don't feel like a hero, like they're saying over there. I feel like a hero. No, the real heroes are those which is was our first response, which is the fire department, the police department. That is the real heroes to me, and to me, I feel like it was something that I had to do for this great nation. That there is I had to do because first be here in the nation because I like to be here, and to me it was a proud to be there. And like I said before, if it would happen, if it would happen again, truly they can count with me. I could be there.
But was there a sense of unfairness that of all people, after what you did, you would get picked up?
Yes, that's the way I see it. I think it's not fair what they're doing to us. That after we serve this great nation, after we expose our health on the 9/11 area, it's not fair the way they're treating us. I think it should be a different way to be treated. That's the way I see it because first of all, when we were there for the first place, we was only thinking it was a duty to do. It was a duty, something that we have to be there for this great nation. And we never thought that the risks that we was going to take about health conditions as we all of us going through today. So that's the way I see it, sincerely. I hope this government has some kind of mercy on us and give us the chance and the opportunity to be part of this great nation as we were at the time of this this incident. And I want to thank you guys for all the media. You guys been doing a great job. Thank you, all of you guys, and God bless you.
I think what Mr. Cardona just said was important. When our nation needed men and women like Mr. Cardona, they responded. Now it's time for our nation to respond to these individuals in need. It's time to give them peace of mind. Yes.
Christian, how does the bill define, 9/11?
It's already, we use the present statute that has been used in the legislation to determine the eligibility for that for this legislation as well, and it generally speaks to those who are engaged in the cleanup, the aftermath, recovery, and cleanup. Those who were involved in saving people's lives as well, and starting from September 11, 2001 to July 30th of 2012.
These many uses the same as like the droga bill.
Correct. Yes.
Congressman,
With Republicans in charge, how do you see your bill playing out?
Well, I would suggest that the legislation that has been passed in both Democratic and Republican administrations, as well as control of Congress, has been bipartisan. My hope is here that in this particular case, that people see through this not in a partisan way, but in a real American way. And this is something that we owe to these individuals. So my hope is that we can do this in a bipartisan way. When I get back to Washington, I'm going to be talking to a number of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle and try to encourage their support of this legislation as well.
So far, do you have any?
As of yet, we have not. We have not dropped the legislation yet. We haven't dropped in the hopper, as we say. When we get back this week, my intention will be to talk to some of my Republican colleagues in the hope that we can get them to be supportive of this bill.
what about Senate sponsors?
I would like to add something.
At this point, we have no Senate sponsors, but we're talking to the New York delegation as well as other members as well on this.
President Trump has the opportunity to executive power.
Can you step up to the microphone?
President Trump has the opportunity through executive power. With the stroke of his pen, he can legalize 2,000 undocumented heroes. These men and women came here, like all of us. I mean, we have our 10 towers that are the FDNY and the NYPD, but we also have the undocumented who came down here and made a difference. So President Trump, as a New Yorker, can have the opportunity to make well on behalf of the Latino community and those who are undocumented that are not Latinos, and make a mark on the immigration status of the heroes of 9/11.
Mr. Sanchez, the number 2,000 has been mentioned a couple of times. Where does that number come from? Where do those estimates?
These are the men and women who are registered, receiving the medical treatment at Mount Sinai.
Use the microphone.
And so 2,000 of them are undocumented?
2,000.
Let's use the microphone.
I thought your office said 1,000, 1,200.
We said between 1,000 and 2,000. We don't have a definite number.
I spoke with Dr. Crana like about 8 months ago, and the number was 2,000. There's 6,000 cleanup workers, and 2,000 of them are undocumented.
Just sort of a background question. ICE violations are federal issues. How is Governor Cuomo able to pardon?
The act that he was engaged in was a state act and not a federal act, and that a federal crime. So he gave him the authority to do that. He was not prosecuted federally, but by the state. That gives the governor the authority to do that.
So just so I have the number clear, 6,000 overall people were helping in the cleanup. Out of those 6,000, about 1,000 to 2,000 were undocumented.
As to the number, and Mr. Sanchez may have more information on that, as to the number of actual workers, it may very well be up to 6,000 people that did work there. I don't know that information. From what I know from our office is that it's between 1,000 and 2,000. It's a large swath between that. But these folks have been documented either by the Cornell group in terms of the medical attention, as well as the Droga Act itself.
How long was Mr. Cardona in an ICE facility?
How long were you in the ICE facility for?
Excuse me?
How long were you in an ICE?
It's been around 4 months.
4 months.
Yes.
Mr. Cardona, could you speak a little bit about what you remember after September 11th, the type of work you did, and what you remember of those days?
Well, I'll try my best to remember that, but it's not the best thing to remember about. Just know that it was a place that nobody wants to be all the time. Nobody wants to be in a way that it was so unfair to what happens. But in the same time, to me, I know my friends, it was a proud place to be, right time to be, serving the nation on the hard times that we was going through. To me, like I say, it was a horrible times, but at the same time, it feels good to be there, hoping to restore the city back.
Were you a construction worker at that time?
Yes, as a clinic restoration, sir.
Okay. So do you remember the moment when you decided that you said, you know what, I'm going to go help with the cleanup effort? Do you remember that moment?
Yes, I did. I remember very clearly. It was a moment of patriotism. It was a moment that I feel like it was a duty to me to be there. It was a time to serve this great city, and like I said before, it was a great place to be there as a worker. Fortunately, it was not the right way to be there serving the city, but unfortunately, that's how it happened. So I feel very proud, and like I said before, God forgive us if doesn't happen again. If we got to go through this, if I have to serve this great nation, I would do it again. I would not regret it, even if I know that I'm going to be in a high risk. Okay.
Any more questions? I want to thank you. I just want to point a note. Giselle was 3 years old at that time, so Mr. Cardona had everything to live for, as we all did in the aftermath of 9/11. We're here 16 years on. We ought not to have this discussion today, but we have because of the nuance and the circumstances of this president. Our hope is that, yes, he can use his pen to give these people peace of mind. But as of yet, he's only used that pen to bring stress and discourse to our nation, particularly those who are living in an undocumented fashion. So that's why the need to make this statement by dropping this bill is so critically important. So thank you all very much for being here today, and thank you again to Carlos and his family.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Mr. Cardona, when were you detained by ICE?
I'm sorry.
When were you detained?
We were in a Hopsville County facility in Jersey.
When?
When that was January 20.